Sorry, but managing contractors, temp staff, agents is not people management. There's three basic things that I recommend to review before sending your resume out to an opportunity. So one is budget. If you are in charge of any sort of budget, if that is a sales quota that you need to reach, you want to specify how much that is. Why? Because the higher up you go, they're going to be looking for professionals with a certain scale of budget experience. If you're a sales rep, they're going to be looking for a track record of achievement versus that target. If you're marketing, they're going to want to know that you're able to achieve certain results with a certain level of budget. And the bigger company, of course, the bigger budget you have. And then, of course, if you're a business head, business unit head, or general manager, then the size of the P&L that you're managing is going to be an important indicator as well. It doesn't mean that if it isn't meeting the requirements or the scale of the position you're applying to, that you're going to be screened out. It's just important to see that, to know that you have that responsibility and that you are going to have a basic technical understanding of how to manage a budget or work backwards from whatever goals are relevant to that budget, achieving a certain amount of profitability percentage of a P&L budget. Note your budget specifically. Second thing is your product categories or domain. So in sales and marketing, commercial areas, that is going to be very important. Not just the product name. That's nice to have, if you're applying to opportunities within a certain area where the reader is going to be aware of what those products are, if they're well-known products in the industry, then yeah, include the product names. But more importantly, because a lot of the time, the person who is going to be reviewing your resume is going to either be a recruiter in an agency or an in-house recruiter or talent acquisition or HR, who may or may not have experience working in that industry, okay? Recruitment and talent acquisition and HR is an industry profession, and they often move between industries. So someone coming from, say, a luxury goods company into the pharmaceutical industry is not going to have the awareness of what those, major brand names are in pharmaceuticals. They might recognize a term from seeing it on a billboard. So just be aware of how technical those brand names might be and whether or not it's going to be relevant to include. However, the product area or the domain or product type categorically is going to be very helpful to list on your CV, so it can be easily picked up by someone who's not familiar with the brand names of your area. And that is going to help them recognize, oh yeah, the hiring manager said that was important. I see it on the CV. Yeah, I want to look more into this. That's going to help you as well. The third thing is people management. Now, one distinction to make very clear, sorry, but managing contractors or temp staff or agents is not people management. So sometimes I'll be meeting a candidate for a director or a head of an organization position where they need to have experience managing, say, 10 to 20 people. And they'll tell me, I don't have full time, but I manage 10 agencies. Sorry, it doesn't count, because there's a certain science and an art and science that comes with direct people management, which means managing full-time employees who are reporting to you. It means that you have to assess their performance. You have to provide disciplinary action if needed, conflict resolution, performance appraisals at the end of the year, attracting talent to hire and build out your team, and firing talent, how to manage them out of the organization. These are all going to be skills that come along with being a direct people manager, as well as, if you're in a growing organization, how to justify the headcount, the additional headcount. Even in big companies, especially in big companies, budget controls are very tight and there's a lot of red tape around that. It has to go through numerous approvals, sometimes double approval. They have so many checks and balances in place to contain costs, especially if it's a public company, that is a skill in itself. It requires patience, and it requires being able to succinctly illustrate how an additional headcount cost or even redesigning how your team is structured, how that's going to benefit to the organization and to align that. So that's a very different set of skills than managing agencies where you could dump them if you're not happy, or temp staff or contractors where you call their, that agency's account manager or their supervisor or something and say, hey, so-and-so isn't doing too well. Can we get someone else? It's not like that when you're managing full-time employees. So it's really important to note that distinction first. Second, specify how many people you're managing on your CV. And if there's multiple layers there, specify that too. Because if you're someone managing a team of, say, 10, but within that 10 people, there's 2 managers that are managing the other, say 4 or 5 people each, then that means that you're not having 10 one-to-ones every week. You're having 2. And those 2 one-on-ones are with those 2 managers that are reporting to you, and they're having, say, 4 or 5 one-on-ones per week with their people. Therefore, only much less of your time is going to be used for those one-on-ones per week, as opposed to having 10 hours or 10 one-on-ones in the week. But also the issues that you're going to be dealing with are going to be escalated issues that are beyond the manager's control. That usually is going to be performance management issues, but it could also be promotions. They might be saying, hey, I think this person should be promoted to such and such, and then you've got to understand why and balance that with making sure that other people in the organization are going to be on board with that and align, and that you're setting that person up for success, and that that's not going to diminish anyone else. So there's all these dynamics that come with having multiple layers of management. And of course, having a higher level of management with fewer one-on-ones, but solving bigger problems naturally is what most professionals are looking for to keep growing themselves as a leader and influencing through people. There are coaches out there and other courses that can help through this. And unfortunately, typically, this isn't something that's usually done very well in-house. It is something where some sort of mentorship system or special training, like a Dale Carnegie training, can come in very helpful, which is sometimes coordinated and set up by internal HR, but is not something that's very consistent in my observation, at least, even in big companies. And especially in smaller companies, they just don't have smaller, meaning, say, a few hundreds of people organization, there's bottlenecks when it comes to performance evaluation and leadership development. So even though they might have appraisals or yearly assessments in place, there's not so much follow through on actually giving you the tools or setting up the seminars and workshops for you to get better at these things. They happen. But in my observation, it tends to be kind of, every few years, I'll try to give it a drive, and then it settles down. So it's really something that you want to take into your control if that's a path that you're looking to pursue. So revisiting these 3 things. One is budget, quantifying whatever budget you're responsible for achieving or working within or managing, etc. Second is the product areas, not just brand names, but what is the category a product or product area that you're working in, so it's easy for the viewer to pick up even if they're not familiar with your domain. And third is people management of FTEs and how many direct reports that includes. So it might say something like managed 10 FTEs, including 2 group managers and 8 brand managers, for example. So that will help it be clear for the reader to imagine how you would fit into their organization and if you'll be an appropriate match or not. And that can save time for everyone in the process.